Flat forward? Okay. All right, everybody, it looks like we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Planners Who Profit Live. If you're in the room, do me a favor. I know it's early, but do me a favor and make a little bit of noise. Just be like, whoop, 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 whoop. All right. All right. Shout outs to all of you guys in the room who are here early in the morning. I know a lot of y'all flights came in this morning, so shout out to you. And some even last night, shout out to you. Welcome. I'm so excited. This is my third time doing this, Planners Who Profit Live. I was so flushed I forgot to put my phone down. I'm gonna just slide this here. Yeah. But I always love doing this. I love doing this event because I wish, like when I was like maybe year 3, 4, 5 in business, I really wish that there was something like this that I could have gone to. I kind of, you kind of need a little something different when you've been in business for a little while. You need a little more than motivation, a little more than how to get started. And so I'm passionate about doing this and bringing that. And I hope that you guys have an amazing experience. You have some takeaways and that you learn not only from myself, but from the other people who are going to be coming up. So welcome again. We are in, I was going to say sunny, but it's not that sunny, Washington, D.C. Today, which is not too far from where I'm based. I'm in Maryland. I'm actually close to an hour from here, but we still call it the DMV. It's still the D.C. area. So thanks, guys, for coming to my home. And I'm really excited that you guys are here. For those of you guys who are virtual, shout outs to you. I know a couple more people wanted to come in person. And I know that there were some emergencies and things that came up and why you guys couldn't come. So I hope that you enjoyed the virtual experience just as much and that you learned just as much. And I can't wait to check in with y'all. So a few things. For those of you guys who are virtual, again, thanks for your patience. We halted everything here to wait for y'all. We didn't want to get ahead of you, okay? So I'm excited that you're here. Please connect. There is a virtual check-in at 1 o'clock. Sorry, I believe it's at 1:30, sorry. Where it's gonna be 15 minutes, I'm gonna get on. I don't wanna hear your feedback, questions, thoughts. We're gonna be taking questions throughout, but so as you have questions, just drop them in the chat. I will always check the chat and answer your questions. But in addition to that, I just wanna be able to see you face to face. So for those of you who are, in your pajamas, maybe if your wig is somewhere else, make sure it's nearby, slap it on. So when I get on live, we could chat, okay? Because I kind of want to see your face when I join the Zoom. That's the purpose of the check-in, right? So that we can kind of connect that way as well. Also, for those of you guys who are virtual, your coaching sessions are tomorrow. So you should already have a calendar invitation with the link for your coaching, your one-on-one sessions with either Faith or Courtney Rose tomorrow. And those are going to be really good. Real fun. It's going to be 15 minutes, laser to the point coaching. For anyone who's ever been in any of my coaching programs, you could get a whole lot done in like 5 or 10 minutes. You get some really good feedback. And it's just kind of to help you with your next step, right? So our coaches are phenomenal and they're gonna help you through just thinking through your next steps as a planner with everything that you've been digesting. Also, we're all family here, okay? So for those of you guys in the chat, feel free to chat a lot, talk to each other, talk to us. For everybody in the room, talk to one another, exchange contact information. Like, we want it to feel like a family. For some of you, a couple of y'all have been talking to y'all on Zoom for a couple months, meeting you for the first time in person. That's fun. Some of you guys have seen each other's pictures. A good number of people here, in the same areas. We have someone else actually coming from Texas shortly, and other areas. A couple people coming from Jersey, other areas. So just get to know one another. You never know. One thing I always say, and I'm already dropping my gems, but whenever I go out of town to work on events, I usually will bring one person from my team and I'll get someone locally to help me, right? If I have to, I'll get 2 people locally, but I usually try to bring one person from my team, just depending on what's going on. And how I pick the local people is people that I know who are already event planners in the area. So it's always a good idea to network with people, right? For instance, Jennifer. The reason Jennifer was like the Corinthian, I was like, oh yeah, I'm sure y'all were like, that's in Texas though. How you know where that is? Because I've done a wedding there. I actually had a wedding that I had to move. It's a long story. I'm publishing YouTube soon, but 2 months before the wedding, we had to move it from DC to Texas because Mayor Bowser was still saying no events over 10, and that wasn't working for us. So we moved it to Texas, and we moved it to a venue called the Corinthian, and obviously with short notice, I needed some assistance. And so I called Jennifer, and she was a phenomenal assistant for me that day. Of course, it's what better than getting someone who is already a good wedding planner to be your assistant, right? As on a wedding day, if they're available. Thankfully, she was available and she was able to help me with that event, right? And that's why we were able to talk about that venue. I didn't know you were there last week. Now I got to go on Instagram because I don't think I've seen the pictures yet. But oh, you didn't post it yet?
I will before the end of the
Okay. I'm gonna keep that inside. Okay, but yeah, I'm not rambling, but you guys see there's actually a lot of power in networking with other planners. I think that photographers do this very well. Photographers work with each other as second shooters. I think as planners we could do the same, right? Instead of getting high school kids to come help you, you can get another planner who's actually good at it to be your assistant, and it'll help you a lot through your day. And I was exaggerating by saying high school students, but you know what I meant. All right, also, speaking of photographers, shout out to the team, all right? Like I said, this is the third time that I've done Planners Who Profit Live, and all three times I've used the same people. So Chip Dizzard, I think I'm pronouncing your last name wrong, Chip Dizzard. But look him up, he's phenomenal. He's handling the live stream, and he also brings other phenomenal team members with him. So we have C-Spot Media, hey, helping with the live stream and video. And of course we have Nathan Templeton as well, helping with the video and everything. So when you guys see the recaps, these are great vendors. They do travel, they do a good job. Chip was in, I don't know where he was, Mexico, something like that last week. So yes, these are your people. Make sure you consider them, even for those of you guys who are online in other places. Also, Mariana, who is phenomenal. She actually is, she works with my team a lot with weddings and everything. So I already told her this is gonna be so much easier than a wedding, but I need your help to come help me. And she's like ball of joy, but also just really great. So thank you, Mariana, for coming out and supporting. And our coaches. So Courtney Rose will be here shortly, but we also have Coach Faith, hey, who, you know, I have to say I got to blow up her spot, who just got engaged as well.
Thank you.
Yes, who just got engaged as well. Oh my gosh. I was so excited when I saw that online. I was like, yes, girl, yes. So we're excited. That's always an exciting thing to see as well. All right, I already mentioned the virtual check-in family, etc. Last thing, if you guys post anything online, tag Planners Who Profit. If you do decide to make the effort to make a reel, add us as the collaborators. We will publish it to the timeline. We're publishing everything you put out to the timeline, all right? So make sure you do that. All right, so why do I like doing Planners Who Profit Live? Number one, it took me a long time to get to this place, but there was a time that I felt really, I didn't really feel like I had a place in the industry, and I didn't really feel that people knew me or wanted to work with be so good they can't ignore you, so I'm just going to do a good job, and eventually people are going to work with me. By the time I started working with those vendors that I really always wanted to work with, you know, taking some time to really put out my own content, work hard, get my own clients, by the time I got there, they were the ones coming to me, being like, oh my gosh, I can't really believe I finally got to work with you. Like, and I'm like, I was kind of fangirling you, so I don't know why you fangirling me. Like, I don't really get this dynamic that we're dealing with right now. And it took me a while to understand that most of these vendors, most of your favorite vendors, get a lot of their business from referrals from other people, from other planners specifically, right? So not all, but a lot of times they either get the referral through a planner or the client wants to work with that vendor, but then tells the planner, right? So they already have a planner first, and they kind of ask the planner to vet first. And I was like, man, no wonder I wasn't working with all these people, because most of them don't have the referrals to give. And when you really understand that, you stop relying just on referrals. I know a lot of people say, oh, how come, like, I don't think it's fair. Like, I give referrals to people all the time. I refer photographers. This is one florist. I give her business all the time, and she doesn't return the favor. If you really look at her work, look at the things when she publishes her work, her blog posts, look at her posts, you'll probably notice that there's always a planner involved, right? Maybe not always, and most of the time. And if there isn't, it's because the bride felt like she could do it herself, which is a whole nother discussion. You know, I see some eyes rolling already, and people being like, oh my gosh. But you know, you also can't tell those people nothing. So just because, so when you really, really think about it in process, you're like, man, it's really up to you to get out there and get your clients, right? I think this is true for every business owner. Even like occasionally I have one-on-one coaching with photographers. I'm like, you need to get out there and get your clients. They're like, well, what about referrals? Referrals are good, but still, you know, be findable and all that. But especially for us as planners, the truth is that we have to, like, because we are the ones that are getting booked at the very beginning of the process. We're the ones who a lot of people are coming to for referrals. I have so many people that come to us for full service planning, and they already have a list of vendors they want to work with, but they don't want to book those people until after they've spoken to me. And they're sure that, oh, I think it's going to work for them, and I think it's a good fit for them, right? So there's nothing wrong with getting referrals. I do still get referrals, but they're generally from venues. And it's rare that they're for full planning, right? Sometimes they are, but a lot of times it's for partial. Oh, not even partial, for coordination, right? And so that's something that when you really understand that, you understand why it's important for you to have a strong marketing process, a strong sales process, and strong onboarding, right? Because you're going, like, the type of client who's going to book your full planning service needs to be able to find you. So you guys know I asked everybody to do an intake form before you came here. The number one thing that most people selected on that intake form is, how do I get more people to book my full planning service? The type of person who's going to book your full planning service is going to book you first. So they're not going to come from referrals. Like, you just have to understand that. So that means they have to be able to find you, right? And they have to be able to find you quickly. Because again, they're waiting to book you most of the times before they book the rest of your vendors. We're going to talk more about how to find you everything in the marketing session, but that's got to start with that. The second thing is that we work hard as planners. Has anybody here ever done a wedding where I will never forget the first time I did a wedding. I gave this client a huge discount because we went to college. We went to the same school. We weren't like close, but went to the same school. And she fired another planner before hiring me, and she thought, oh, my budget's tight, this and that. And then when I finally saw all the vendors, I was like, girl, you paying the DJ more than you paid me. Shout outs to DJs. They're very important. But your DJ's not meeting with you every week for months, right? And DJ's not there as long as I am on the day of. And DJ doesn't even have an assistant. And I have two. So has anybody else been in that scenario? I'm saying all the hands, right? We work very hard. So it's important to be able to make money that reflects how hard we work. And the third thing is that a lot of times we're booked before people's budget increases. So a lot of times you feel I'm just talking about things I did wrong. Maybe, it might just be me. But someone comes to you and they're like, oh, my budget's only $20,000. You're like, okay, don't worry, I'm gonna discount it, whatever. You could, whatever. And then 2 weeks later, they're like, ooh, girl, I got a raise. So I'm ready to do it. Like, I'm ready to get a photographer for $8,000 and this and that. And you're like, well, how? Well, and it's like you don't even know how to readdress this conversation, right? Because it's like you already agreed to it for less. So first of all, stop doing that. This is why you stop doing that. But it's about us learning how to communicate our value. Yes, even before the person realizes they're going to increase their budget and all of that, right? Does this resonate with anybody? Yes. Okay. So the average cost of a wedding in the United States is $34,000. I always feel the need to tell people this because people like to argue with me about this on the internet. People have argued with me about this for so long, and I'm like, I didn't make this up. You Google it. What is the average? This is what people can afford. First of all, $34,000 is not cheap. It's not nothing, right? It's money. This is what the average person can afford to spend. But when you're trying to build a really profitable business that can run full time, you're probably looking for a budget a little higher than this, right? Which means you're looking for an above average client. Which means that you have to show up in an above average way. I think that because for many of us in the industry, we spend so much time looking at wedding blogs, and some of us also are on Pinterest, which is, love-hate relationship with Pinterest. You keep seeing these $100,000 weddings, so in your mind, you think, oh yeah, average cost can't be $34,000. Yes, it is. It is, actually. This is what people on average can afford, right? Which means that you have to show up in an above average way if you want more. You have to. And this is why I say that it's very different going to an event for beginners versus those who are experiencing and trying to level up in the market. I'm not even talking about super shiny events. There's so many people I've worked with and they're like, well, I'm not trying to do, fully pipe and draped, like, shiny marble floor events. It's like, you don't have, first of all, you don't have to do that for it to be $60,000, $80,000. But secondly, it's not even about that. It's about the fact that, everybody's looking for something specific. One thing I always say is that obviously I have natural hair. I spend more money on natural hair products instead of buying Pantene. There's nothing wrong with Pantene. Actually, back in the day, I used to use it. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's not specifically formulated for me. So people who are looking, and this is why we're going to get into this a little bit later, articulating your secret sauce, your niche, people who are going to spend above average are looking for something specific, and you also have to show up in an above average way, right? To show that you can give them that specific thing. This year is also a very interesting and unique year for us. I'm sure everybody's heard this statistic already by now, but it's projected that we're going to have 2.5 million weddings this year, which is going to bring all kinds of challenges. It's already bringing certain challenges. It's already bringing certain challenges. And the one thing everybody likes to point to is a shortage of vendors. I haven't necessarily hit that one yet. But I think that the other thing is people just being overwhelmed. So you having to be really on top of things and really double checking people's stuff because so many people are doing 3-4 events a week. So there are some challenges coming with that, but there's also a unique opportunity. A lot of people are planning events on a very short time frame. A lot. Over the past maybe 6 weeks, multiple clients in our program have booked weddings that are still happening not only happening this year, happening this summer. Right? So people are planning a wedding in 6 months. First of all, I personally have always been planning a wedding in 6 months. So when you finally see that I'm engaged, whatever, just know I'm getting married within 6 months. I've never wanted a long engagement. But on average, most people have wanted, have a year and a half. And that's shrinking a lot. And I think it's because everybody saw their sister, their cousin, their neighbor down the street get married in 3 months when the world reopened last year. So people know it's possible. So what that means is that even though it's April, it is still possible to book more weddings this year. Actually, one of our clients, I wish she could have made it, but she booked a trip to Nigeria, so she's not here. But she came to this event last year, which last year was at the end of April, not the beginning. And after that, she joined our program and everything. I actually do have her testimony online. I can share it, whatever. It's in the Facebook group and on YouTube. But by the end of the year, she had not just booked, but completed multiple events. She came in April with no events booked, but by the end of the year, she had completed the events. Obviously booked some for this year too, but those people obviously, those events were all planned under short time frames. So for us, we have to, and also one of our clients, Juanita, shout outs to you. I know she's attending virtually today. She lives in Germany, but she plans events in Thailand. She's just living her best life. But, and she also just let me know that she booked a client who's planning a wedding in 3 months as well. So it's the same thing happening over in Thailand as well. A lot of people are getting married on shorter time frames. So yes, there's lots of weddings, but what I want to tell everybody here is that you haven't necessarily missed the wave if you don't feel booked out yet. If you are booked out, that's cool, but if you don't feel booked out yet, you haven't missed the wave. You just got to do the work, right? To be findable. So I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about my story, and then we're going to go with the visual. We're going to come up with our plan for the next year. For everybody who doesn't know, I am a computer engineer by training, right? I studied computer engineering at the University of Pennsylvania, and I always knew, since I was 5, I wanted to do something in STEM, right? When I was 5 was when the first Black woman made it to space. I remember I was in a Catholic school, so my teacher's name was Sister Teresa. She came in and was like, oh, first Black woman went to space. And I was like, okay, why is this such a big deal? And she said, I was 5, right? So I think I was allowed to ask. She said, this is typically not a field that women do. And also, first Black woman. I was like, cool, I want to do stuff that women typically don't do. And I don't know, it was, for whatever reason, I just went down that path until I got it. And once I achieved it, I realized that it wasn't my passion, that I was just chasing this dream just because. I don't know if anyone else in here relates, but I know a lot of us in here we kind of did a survey of people in the room. A lot of people in the room are in some type of engineering or tech. And the truth is that it was never my passion. It was just something that I became good at, just literally because of that story. I don't regret it, no regrets. I learned a lot, but that was pretty much how that all happened. So after graduating, did a beauty pageant. I won, and I wanted to do a service activity, something to give back to the community, and I planned this ball. So imagine this, I graduated college, spent all my time preparing for this beauty pageant, talent, all this stuff, so something creative, right? As soon as that was done, started planning this ball, and then as soon as that ball was over, I was like, oh my God, it's just me and my engineering job, and I didn't know what to do with myself. So I decided, you know what, let me just go for it, enroll in NYU, and learn about event management. And I don't know how much y'all know about NYU, but it's one of the best programs. Thankfully, I was living in New York at the time. I didn't even know that. I just did it because it was nearby. So I'm being taught by my design teacher, design stages for MTV. My nonprofit events teacher did the Urban League conference every year. I'm learning from the best of the best. And I'm like, you can actually make money in this. That was the first time it actually occurred to me that I could make money, that I wouldn't have to be broke because I wanted to be a planner. Because before that, I was like, oh, my parents are going to kill me. They spent all this money to get this engineering degree for me. They're telling all their family and friends that I'm an engineer, and then I'm going to be like, I want to be an event planner, and I'm going to be broke, But I realized that you don't have to be, broke. You don't have to. You don't have to keep doing events for $500 or $1,000. There are people who are doing multi-five-figure, deals in events. It's very possible. So I graduated with all this hope and excitement and information about how to plan an event and no idea how to get clients. And a baby face, because I probably look 22 right now, and that was 11 years ago, so you could do the math. Now 12 years ago. Okay, so I'm just getting old, but that was a long time ago, right? So I spent a lot of time volunteering, doing events for free, doing events for really cheap, like $250, $500, because I was just doing everything for exposure. And that was all I really cared about, largely because I had a good paying job. And I think that because of that, I kept myself stuck for a long time. And my business became something I did for clout instead of something that I did for money. And I think that a lot of you guys might be, who are listening, might be in that place. It was something I did for fun as well as clout, right? Oh yeah, I got a lot of likes on this one, great. But I wasn't really paying myself, wasn't really making money. And eventually when I moved to Maryland, I decided, a lot of things changed when I moved to Maryland from New York. I just decided, I guess I was a little older, a little wiser, wanted different things for myself. And I realized, my dad would tell me the same thing. My dad's an accountant, and up until a certain point, he would help me with my taxes, and he'd be like, at a certain point, you need to start making money from this thing. At a certain point, he wasn't mad, he was just like, at a certain point, you need to think about this, And when I moved to Maryland was when I finally started listening, when I moved away from, I don't know why, it took a while to sink in. And I realized, I need to start paying myself every month, right? So I went on this journey of, let me calculate how much I could pay myself. And for anyone who joins, when you join my program, that's the first exercise. Sit down, how much money have you booked this year, figure out how much you're gonna pay yourself per month, and start doing it. Because when I started realizing I can only pay myself a couple $100 a month, it was okay. But the next thing was, how do I increase this every month, right? And it kind of got me to focus on that versus just clout. And over time I started doing that, and I was excited. Of course, getting invited to speak at conferences, events was fun, but I knew I wanted to help more people because I knew that I wasn't the only person who was dealing with this, right? Who had gone down this path. And I know that you need more than just, post 3 times a day on Instagram to kind of get out of this rut. So that's kind of the story behind why I created Planners Who Profit. That's kind of like my journey of, going through there, getting from paying myself $200 a month to eventually paying myself $2,000, which was when I was really excited, and then eventually, of course, growing that to 5, 6, et cetera, above that, right? But it all depends on what's going on that month. And also, what you pay yourself, everybody can do things differently. For me, I pay myself after taxes. I personally pay my taxes from my business account. So, there's also what you pay for me, what you pay yourself isn't what you charged people. For me, it's after expenses, after all of that. So that's an exercise I do. I just wanted to put that out there in case people are like, well, $2,000 a month, that's not that much. It's yeah, but there's expenses, there's taxes, there's other things coming out of that. So I'm hoping this is helpful for y'all. I hope this is, just for you guys to understand who's talking to you. I'm not that person who's I fell out the womb knowing how to plan six-figure events. Like I'm telling you the whole journey. And I really get excited helping people kind of get out of that rut and making sure people don't stay in that rut as long as I did. I get really excited. Some people I work with who have only had a couple years in business, and just seeing people grow, it makes me excited because I'm like, man, this is exactly what I wish I was doing when I was 3 years in, or 4 or 5 years in. So, okay, let's talk about this. So after hearing everything that I just said, I'd like you guys to write 3 things. For those of you guys who have your workbooks, there's a page that says 1 year from now. You could write it there. You could also write it in any other notebook. You could write it wherever is helpful for you. If you could answer 3 questions, in a year from now, what will the events that you're working on look like? In whatever way you want to describe what they look like. In a year from now, what do you want your monthly pay to be? It's April 2023. And what do you want to be able to pay yourself a month? Realistically, right? I want to pay myself $100,000 a month. But I'm just saying, let's be realistic about where you are now. If you put in the work between now and a year, what is it? If you're at 0 now, trying to be at 1,000 next year, 2,000, what is it, right? That you want to pay yourself per month. And how many events do you want to work on? Like how many events? Like again, it's April 2023. It'll probably be either the beginning of wedding season, or you might have 1 or 2 weddings under your belt. How many events do you want to have booked for next year? So I'll give you like 5 minutes to think about it. Just whatever the first thing that comes to mind, jot that down. And then I'd like a couple of people to share with me. And then I'll also take a couple from virtual afterwards because there's a lag. So. Anybody? All right, let's go ahead. Can I pick on you?
You can.
Okay. Thanks. Jennifer, do you mind? Should I walk to her so they can hear online? Yeah. Okay. Or do you mind coming up?
Oh, gosh.
I know. I'm putting you all on blast. I just want to make sure people online can hear.
Oh, gosh.
I know I'm asking for. Oh, you got it. You got it in memory?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, all right. I'm gonna step up to you.
Okay.
So yeah, because my mic is here. Okay. So, can you describe what your events will look like in a year from now?
I would imagine them being more luxury. I'd like to do more luxury events within the next year, and then increasing what I'm paying myself to $1,500 a month, and reducing the amount of events that I do to just 10 to 12.
10 to 12 a year.
Yes, 10 to 12 a year.
Okay. That's good. Anybody else? Or everybody still writing? Oh, you good? Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Do you mind coming up? Mm-hmm. Okay, so what will your events look like next year?
Well, I focus right now because a lot of the stories that you talked about, being a full-time worker, which several of us are, I'm still in that mode where I do partial and day of or wedding day management, because you got to manage both, so I'm not comfortable doing full yet. Mm-hmm. So I would like my events to be more partial, like growing up the ladder, so I'm more involved and more active into them. Mm-hmm. And I want them to be, what I'm working with mostly are, I know that's a terrible term for some folks, but it's the do-it-yourselves. I love couples that are very involved with it, and they just need somebody to kind of like bring it together along the way. kind of like stepping up a little bit more. So that's what I'm trying for.
Okay. When you say stepping up a little bit more, what do you mean?
You know, right now it's the do-it-yourselves where I kind of come in at the last 90 days, you know, and I check everything and tell them what they're missing, what they're going through. That maybe they take me up a little bit more to partial planning where I get to help them make some choices and what they're getting involved with. Okay. You know, for me, right now the income is kind of a self-return. Everything I'm putting in, you know, because y'all know those costs that you got to have a wedding. And my cost is kind of equivalent. I have a little bit left over, but it's not much. So I like how you're presenting. I want to get paid $1,000 per month, and I would like to go up from there. But I mean, that would be great right now. So I'm not breaking even on all the costs of being in a wedding business. And then the last one is I had my best year last year where I had 10 events. Okay. So next year I want to be 10 to 15.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. Phenomenal. Thank you for sharing. So tomorrow we're going to be talking about, tomorrow we're going to be talking about pricing. I'm glad you brought that. I'm going to talk, I'm going to also address costs. So that's something I think I may have talked about like a year ago or so. Common costs that I took on as a planner, and how I was able to kind of shed those to help me to be more profitable. So right now I don't really, So we'll get into that, but I think that will be helpful. So thanks for bringing that up. So I'll make sure I add that for tomorrow when we talk about pricing. Does anyone else want to share, or we could go ahead and wrap up? Okay, one person online, Nima, thanks for volunteering, says, I'd like to do smaller weddings below 300 guests. I know you do, she does. I know she does a lot of African weddings, so yeah. So she wants to do more smaller weddings below 300 guests, and keeping it to 10 to 12 weddings while paying herself $1,500 a month. Okay, is this helpful for anybody? Was this exercise helpful for anybody? Does it feel doable? Does anyone feel a little bit more focused on? Okay. I think a lot of times I'm going to end on this note so we can go ahead with the breakout coaching sessions. A lot of times we're so focused on making sure our clients' events are perfect that we don't focus on our businesses, right? And it's a good-hearted thing, but you know, in order to stay in business for a long time, and especially to be able to go full-time, to be able to live the lifestyle you want, where you're, you know, again, if you want to juggle both, you can. For me, I was able to build a business that paid me thousands a month while also working a day job and even getting promoted a few times in that job, right? So it doesn't have to be either or, but for those who want the either or who want that lifestyle, like you can definitely do it. And it doesn't even matter if you're full-time or not. You should be compensated for what you're doing. And so I believe that you can definitely get to that point. You should be able to get, in my opinion, I'm just gonna put it out there, you should be able to get to $3,000, $4,000, even $5,000 a month, even if you have a day job. It will take a while. It may not be in year one, but it's not like that's basically what I was doing. And for those who don't know, my inspiration was that I decided to buy a house, and so for me, I was like, I'm trying to pay this house off ASAP. Okay, so all my extra money is going to go there. So I'm not rich, you know, I'm house poor, but still, like I'm like put everything. All the extra money, put it in the house, and that became my reason, right? So for everybody else, just tie a reason to whatever that number is. Tie a reason, like what you're going to do with that money. One thing I've learned is that you got to send your money on an assignment in order to stay focused. So just tie something to it, just to keep yourself focused on making sure you can achieve that by next year or even exceed it. And I'll make sure that you increase that every single year. That should be your goal, to find a way to increase that every year. All right, y'all. Again, thank you for your patience with the tech difficulties, with the challenges. We're going to take a bit of a break now and continue journaling, continue doing what's helpful for you. In the back of the room, Courtney Rose and Faith, you guys are both wearing black too? Oh no, that's green. That's green. My bad. I don't know my colors, which is terrible as a wedding planner. But so we have Courtney Rose and Faith will be in the back. So I think we have a couple of sessions. I don't think Michelle is here though. But okay, so Faith, you can take your session, and then in 25 minutes we'll have the second one. And then we'll have the next session and we can go from there. Please enjoy the rest of the smoothies and the snacks and all that. Enjoy water, use the potty, do what you gotta do, get to know each other. And for everybody online, we'll be back on in about 40 minutes. All right, so closer to 11:40, 11:45 instead of 11:30. Thanks, everybody, and we'll catch you later. So you can go ahead and cut it.